I'm gonna come with chapter one of anger management book. This particular book is called Anger Management: How to Take Control of Your Anger, Develop Self-Control, and Live a Happier Life. The book was written by Bill Andrews. So I'm gonna go through the full chapter one. I'm gonna read and talk about it. On the following chapters or the following videos, I'll make them a little bit shorter. But this chapter, to me, it doesn't really break apart really good to like break it off into sections. So we're going to hit the whole chapter. You need to control your emotions if you wish to live a happy and productive life. I wish I could tell you that the only thing you need for success in life is a high IQ. It's very easy to see why many people believe that. After all, the ability to comprehend new information and apply it to daily situations is a highly prized trait. Not everybody can perform at high levels as far as disability is concerned. But unfortunately, there are a lot of people with otherwise high IQs who end up struggling. It's not because they don't know what to do. Instead, they do not know how to handle situations involving other people and their emotions. They may have everything that they need as far as intellectual processing and rational capabilities are concerned, but these don't serve them all that well when their emotions are involved. And this was one of the biggest issues that constantly got me in trouble, not knowing how to properly express myself. So in the conversations, I would end up getting frustrated and it would end up turning into a violent situation. Not surprisingly, in any organization, it's usually the people who are good at presenting ideas to other people and managing, excuse me, and managing other people's egos and ambitions who rise to the top. These are not the sharpest tools in the shed, not by a long shot. So, and this is actually important. So it's talking about how a lot of times you'll have, and it's talking about like company executives, and it's making a point that they may not necessarily be the smartest people in the company, but they have better control over their emotions. You know, you don't have to worry about them having emotional outbursts and stuff like that. They can also navigate other people's emotions so that it doesn't cause problems for the company. And they can also effectively de-escalate people so that things don't spin out of control. In fact, in any typical organization, a lot of geniuses are in the technical department or some other areas, while the top spots are taken by people who obviously do not have the highest IQs. Instead, they are emotionally intelligent. They know how to handle and channel their emotions in such a way as to maximize results. Make no mistake about it. You need that level of control if you want to live a happier and more productive life. So this is expressing the benefit and the utility of being able to properly control your emotions. This is the thing that keeps a lot of relationships, for example, from never progressing or breaking a relationship apart, is the emotional control, because you can like everything else about the person, but if there is that conflict where um, the person has no emotional control, um, and become very uh, disrespectful, it's hard. It's going to be difficult for you to stay into that relationship. And some people will stay in the relationship, but both people end up being miserable. So in those situations, it's generally best to just kind of part ways. How exactly can better emotional control help you? Just in case you're unclear as to why you need a better handle on your anger, here are just some ways better emotional control can benefit you. Better relationships. If you know how to watch what you say and how to better react to what people say and do around you, chances are your relationships would improve. You would be more patient with people, and guess what? people would be more patient with you. There will be a lot more understanding, and you will solve more problems together. Also, you will be able to resolve potential conflicts before they flare up into bigger problems. You would know how to get along better, and the relationship improves over time. So, and it's difficult, especially when you're dealing with people. And to me, it seems sometimes it's even more difficult to manage our emotional outbursts with people that we care about than even people that we, kind of sort of like, or even people that we don't care about at all. Um, and I can't exactly explain why that is. The only thing that I think of when I think of those situations is that the emotional attacks that we receive from the people that we actually care about obviously are going to hurt more than what we get from people that we could care less about. So we end up becoming even more angry with them than we do with other people. Because again, when the other people make statements or do certain things, we could care less, right? We don't really uh, care that much about their opinion, and definitely don't care whether they like us or not. Better decisions. Being able to handle your emotions enable you to avoid making rash or impulsive decisions. When somebody says the wrong things to you, it's very easy to feel wounded, threatened, or even humiliated. Your natural tendency would be to push back emotionally. You may say something that would put the other person in their place. You might even get so heated you find it almost irresistible to ball up your fist and smack the other person. So, and here's the thing. So when you're angry and you get extremely angry and you continue to allow your anger to escalate out of control, it's similar to being intoxicated, right? Some of you may know or remember they had it was common that people would use the term drunk with rage or something like that, right? And the reason that they would use those type of terms because it had a lot of similarities to the person being drunk or intoxicated because you're not thinking clearly, you're not getting proper oxygen to your brain, and so you have a tendency to make a rash decision and do something that you wouldn't otherwise normally do if you were thinking in your right mind. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't want to beat the other person up. None of this means that you are immune to the tendency to give the other person a couple slaps because whatever they said hurt you so much. But you decide to go with your better angles. It takes emotional control to take the high road, which is the better decision. And again, I know when I was young, I would think of, what here is talking about taking the high road, which is kind of walking away from the situation and not continuing to escalate it. It would uh I would sometimes look at it as like it was a weakness. And it's not, it's not a weakness um to walk away from the situation and not put yourself in a bad situation unnecessarily. Better crisis management. Make no mistake about it. If you are a very emotional person, chances are you will always end up making things worse for yourself and people who depend on you whenever a crisis happens. It's like pouring gasoline on charcoal. If you have all these anger and emotional control issues brewing or boiling deep within you, what would seem like a small, easily explained, and very manageable crisis can flare up into an uncontrolled disaster. Everything turns into an emergency. So, and that's exactly what the situation is. And right now, as I'm speaking, it's right now as I'm making this particular video, it's November 10th, excuse me, November 11th, 2022, right? And so this is not long after the rapper Takeoff was killed, and all the YouTube videos and stuff that's talking about it is showing that there was an argument between one of his associates and someone else from the other side, something over like stupid stuff, and it ends up turning into gunplay, and somebody ends up losing their life, right, over something very simple, something that, and if it wasn't a setup, um, if you hear what was said or what was being argued about, no one would think that this is something that's going to turn into gunplay, but it did, and someone lost their life. By choosing to deal with your anger issues appropriately, you would be able to get out from under the tendency to make crisis worse than they already are. Instead, by focusing on rational, objective, and mature decision making, you may be able to control many crises in your life. Instead of constantly freaking out and running around like a chicken with his head cut off, you would be able to tackle situations in a calm, collected, and mature manner. And that's what we want to do. So we get to the point where we want to operate in maturity. And a lot of us, we think it's, being gangster or being hardcore or being tough or whatever, just because we can, punch somebody in the mouth and beat them up. And just because you can whoop somebody, don't make you a tough guy. And in reality, you're putting yourself in danger because everybody's not going to be okay with that butt whooping. It's not like back in the days where you can go out fight, kind of beat the heck out of each other and, kind of go have a beer later on. Um, Nowadays, you got these people, one, they really don't want to fight in the first place. So they're going to try to shoot you. But also, you got to think about, hey, you might run into this individual again when you happen to be walking with your family. Now you've made an unnecessary enemy, and it's not about being scared, right? Some of us, it's not really about being scared for your life because, hey, you know what? Nobody gets out of life alive. So, from the day you're born, you're already moving towards uh, dying. So, but obviously we don't want to put our family and loved ones in danger. And you have people, and it's not like back in the days. I remember back in the days, if you had an issue with someone, um, and they happen to see you, right, they catch you, it's on site, but they happen to catch you and you walking with your children or your old lady or your mother or grandmother or something, and they weren't going to do nothing. They weren't going to do nothing to you. You weren't going to do nothing to them. You look at each other and that, it's on, but you with your family. They might even, greet the family and speak to them nicely, right? It was just that type of respect. But that's not the way it is nowadays. Better perspective. In any kind of situation that involves conflict, it's easy to let your emotions get the better of you because we have overblown and exaggerated perception of what just happened. Now, everybody's entitled to their feelings, but you have to understand that there is such a thing as reality. And a lot of things that people get angry about, I can think of situations with myself where I got angry over things, um, and was animate, like super heated about it. And I had totally misunderstood the whole situation. And it has happened reversed against me where somebody, have mistook something that I said. And the thing is, too, because I'm not a very politically correct individual, I don't go with the common victim mentality that's being pushed in the media nowadays. So sometimes the things that I say or the way that I say them can sometimes rub people in the wrong way, right? And so if we're getting heated about something that somebody said or done, we should at least take the time to see, well, okay, am I off on this? Am I looking at this the wrong way, or did I misinterpret what the person said? Reality is made up of facts. And if you constantly assume too much, exaggerate, or even blow things out of proportion, don't be surprised if your perception of reality gets skewed. As a result, you end up reacting in the worst possible way to situations that would have otherwise been manageable. And again, we turn the situations into something that we take it out of control. And the reality of it is, if it hasn't already turned to where we're already throwing blows or firing shots or stabbing someone or something like that, right? Then it can always be managed. right? It can always be managed, right? But we need to try to de-escalate the situation and not escalate it even further. Um, it don't make you gangster or tough or whatever just because you decide to shoot somebody. Anybody, a child, children accidentally shoot people, unfortunately all the time. So, you know, they're still a little child, right? And that's what a lot of us are when we can't properly manage our emotions with the people, especially people that we care about, right? When we have to flip out and call them out of their name and talk all kind of crap about them, and then think that person is supposed to be okay about okay with it, right? Because the thing about it is once you said something, you can't unsay it, right? And that's the danger about letting ourselves get out of control emotionally, because we will have a tendency to say and do things that later we feel bad about, right? And especially again when it comes to people that we care about. So we feel bad, but you can't unsay it. And that person can't unhear it. So even if the person decides to continue to speak to you and talk to you, um, guess what? They still feel a certain way about what you said. And that relationship will never be the same. It's not going to be the same. Even if they choose to continue to mess with you, right? As a friend, as a family member, or whatever your relationship is with that person, that relationship is not going to be the same. And that will still remain at the back of their mind forever. Forever. Right? Um, and especially again, and some people say, well, if they really cared about them, then they would just let it go. No, they let it go by still continuing to function with you. But because of the fact that they actually care, that's why it hurts so much. And that's why they're never going to let it go. You got to realize you just changed the whole dynamic of that relationship where they thought that you were one thing, and now when you say what you said or did what you did, now it's all something else, right? That's why the issue like cheating and stuff like that, that's what makes that such a bad issue. Now, this doesn't mean that these decisions are ideal. There are many situations in life where you just basically have to make do with the best choice given given the circumstances. Usually, these are far from ideal, but it is a better position than always opting for the worst decision possible. And unfortunately, if you let your emotions get the better of you, that's usually what happens. And the next one, increase self confidence. Believe it or not, if you are able to control your emotions, your sense of trust in doing the right thing at the right time to produce the right results increase quite a bit. Nothing's more damaging to self confidence than the feeling that, regardless of what you do, people just have it against you. And so again, um, one of the things that keeps us angry also is believing or thinking that everybody's out to get us. Everybody's trying to do us wrong. Everybody's trying to hold us back. This is what's so damaging with the victim mentality that's pushed in the media right now, in society. Teaching people that the reason that you're stuck and the reason that you're not succeeding is because someone else is trying to hold you back and someone else is not letting you get ahead. They're not letting you get the business loans. They're not letting you get the being able to start your own business, or being able to move forward in a positive way. And in reality, it's you. You're the one that prevents yourself from being able to move forward in a positive way and being able to be successful. You're not that weak that someone else can control your destiny. You have control over your destiny if you choose to. But as long as we have no emotional control and we let our anger control us, then yes, we're going to stay stuck. We're going to stay in the same position that we've always been, and our situation may get increasingly worse as we go about our life. So it's not somebody else's fault. So another thing we get is the increased self-confidence. And the way that this worked for me, again, I grew up as a very angry individual. and what's the term? A loose cannon, as they would say, right? So, other people, would think like, okay, we don't know what this damn fool's gonna do. And sometimes I would even think myself, right? I would avoid certain conversations or arguments or involving myself in certain conversations because I'm like, you know what? I don't know how I'm gonna act if this person, does or says something, in a certain way. And so I didn't really trust myself. But as I began to grow up, right, and I do mean grow up because that was really childish way of doing things. And as I began to grow up and deal with life in a different manner, I began to have more confidence in being able to navigate different situations and even conflicts with people without allowing it to spin out of control. And so I developed a thing. So if you're not physically trying to harm me, I'm not physically trying to harm you. As far as the bullshit that's coming out of your mouth is irrelevant, you know, and I'm able to maintain that in most situations. But I also don't become complacent and just think, oh yeah, I got this under control. Because if you allow yourself to not properly taking care of your health, not getting enough sleep, which I never get enough sleep because I'm insomniac, and you're hungry, maybe you're feeling a little bad that day, you're a little tired or whatever, right? You could kind of lose it unexpectedly. Increase self-esteem. Self-esteem really is your opinion about your sense of self, your sense of worth. It's your opinion of whether you are likable enough or whether you are worthy of respect, love, affection, or admiration. If you are a very emotional person and you get angry a lot, it's very easy to internalize the conflict and defense mechanisms you provoke from other people. If people hate being around you because you always fly off the handle and you say the most cutting and damaging things to them, you start absorbing all these, and sooner or later you start feeling, maybe I'm a bad person, maybe I'm not worthy, maybe I'm not worth knowing, maybe there's something wrong with me, maybe I'm defective, and on like this. So and that is the case that a lot of times people um especially if people have no control over their mouth, they let different things, say certain things or do certain things. I mean, I got people that I know, that I care about, like, and stuff like that, but um I don't try to spend a lot of time around them, and I have a hard time communicating and conversating with them for that reason, right? Um, because they don't know how to control the things, that come out of their mouth. And like I said before, once you say certain things, you change the dynamics of your relationship with that person. And definitely with me, right? I can let things go to the effect that I'm not gonna go and try to, sneak and kill the person, let's say, or beat them up, right? But um I don't forget, and and even though, again, if I forgive the person, it's that relationship is still not the same, right? But the self-esteem is huge, right? Because if I don't have a good opinion about myself, if I think I'm a piece of crap, and and I don't think that I'm worthy, right? Then I'm not gonna do the things that are gonna help me to be successful, because again, I'm thinking that I'm a piece of crap and that I'm not worthy. So I'm gonna keep doing things that are self-destructive, right? And that's what a lot of people have issues with anger management. That's some of the self-esteem is a big thing, and I think that's worth looking at. And some people say, well, I don't have low self, I got high self-esteem. But in reality, the person is happens to be a very arrogant individual. And there's a difference between arrogance and self-esteem. Arrogance is generally a sign of low self-esteem, where we try to overcompensate for where we're lacking. You get better personal peace, calm, and serenity. The interesting thing about emotional control is that it gives you ownership of who you are deep down inside. It really does. Because a lot of people who have problems with their emotions think that the problem comes from outside. It's other people, it's other people saying the wrong things. It's them finding themselves in the wrong situations with the wrong input. It's everybody else's fault, not theirs. So they spend a tremendous amount of time passing the blame to everybody else. And a lot of us believe this way, and I really do believe that this is one of the things that's preventing people from being able to be successful in their life, and especially minorities. I'll say minorities as well as the LGBTQ community, because again, I think in the media, we're told, or the situation is created to where um people are told, oh, they gotta, people gotta be nice. If they're not being nice, then you can go file a lawsuit because somebody talked to you the wrong way or things like that. And I think that people got the wrong perspective. If somebody don't like you, so what? Right? And as far as businesses are concerned, businesses are there to make money. Even someone that has a business, even if they're a complete freaking racist, right? If you have the skills to make that business money, guess who they're going to hire? You, because you're going to be able to make money. And again, it's not that they like you, right? You can make that person money. So they're going to want to get the money for their business. Um, Not only that, you can start your own stuff, right? We go out. I mean, you'll have people that can sit and they can give you every statistic about every single player on every football, baseball team, or whatever, right? So clearly, these people are intelligent. They got a mind. They can think, right? But we don't spend the time trying to um, learn the things that are going to help us to be able to move forward, right? So you're saying that, okay, people don't like you, they don't want to give you a shot in their business. So what? You know what? F their business, right? Go start your own, do your own thing, make your own brand, build up, and build up while you're building yourself up. Try to help build somebody else up too. Try to teach somebody something. And as you learning how to run your business and do your thing, um, and you help someone else and you teach them, it's going to solidify it in your mind. And guess what? It's also going to prove your self esteem, because self esteem is increased by doing esteemable acts. So, and esteemable acts are those things that you do that you can look at and feel good about yourself about, right? Um, so help to build other people up and not tear them down. But that's what we do as a community. We want to tear people down. We want to find the most negative things to say and do with other people, right? And again, this thing, it comes back as a loop, right? And so we just stay angry. With greater emotional control, you would understand that there are certain things in life that you really cannot control. You accept these and you move on. That's right. You get over them. And by focusing on the things that you can control, this inner space of peace, calm, and serenity continues to grow. And again, excuse me, some of you that may be in recovery, in a substance abuse recovery, you're probably familiar with the serenity prayer, right? So you're familiar with distinguishing between the things that you can and cannot control. So you want to know what you can and can't control, because and other thing that keeps us angry, because we focus so much time on things that we have no say so or control over. Yes, they're bad things. Yes, they um have caused us harm or whatever the case may be. But if you can't do anything about it, what the I'm gonna keep talking about it for if I can't do anything about it? Let me focus on the things that I can actually do something about, right? And with that said, I say in most situations, let's say you're in an argument with somebody, or you have a, a personal issue with one of your friends or somebody that you don't even like or know, right? it's always better to try to figure out what was your part in that, right? So again, you could say the person is mostly at fault, right? Because most of the time that's what we do. We say, we figure out what the person did or said to us or about us or whatever. And that's why we stay angry with the person. That's why we had a resentment or whatever, right? But it's more helpful and beneficial to me if I can figure out what was it that I did to contribute to this situation and make it go sideways, right? And if I can work that thing out, again, it don't matter how much fault the other person had. I can't do nothing about them. I can't change them. I can only change me. So if I can change that part that I did to make the situation go bad, then I can change the whole situation and potentially prevent it from ever happening again if I choose to continue to communicate with this person. So I may choose not to continue to communicate with this person, but even then, it is beneficial for me to figure out what was my part so that I don't repeat this situation with somebody else in the future. And interestingly enough, your sense of control grows with it. So your sense of control grows because you begin to realize that, okay, now I'm focusing on things that I actually can control, right? Instead of focusing on things that I can't control. And that's what we do. We stay angry over shit that we can't do nothing about. We're still talking about um, you know, slavery, segregation, all these different things that we can't do anything about. We definitely can't change them because they already happened, and we can't do anything about them now. And I'm not saying don't know your history. I think it's important for us to know our history. Um, Whatever that history is, I think that knowing the history, the bad parts, it helps us so that we don't repeat it, and we know the good things. So we know how we have or our ancestors have contributed to society. You're no longer feeling that whenever you go somewhere new or you deal with certain people, you just get thrown into an uncontrollable vortex of negative emotions, negative words, confrontations, and even negative actions. Instead, you bring your peace wherever you go because you start operating from this core inner area of peace, calm, and serenity. This is possible instead of this, excuse me, this is possible with increased emotional control. And then the last thing, less internal damage. As you can probably already imagine, just by reading the previous items I described above, reacting in the worst possible worst possible way to external stimuli leads to profound damage to your emotional, psychological, and physical health. These all flow together. And when you are so conflicted, both internally and socially, don't be surprised if your immune system suffers. Don't be surprised if you're unable to sleep well. Don't be at all shocked when you become psychologically unstable. All these, all that stress and pressure can come to a head. And that's the thing. And sometimes that's why we may sometimes have a psychological break, right? It gets to be too much. And also it besides um the normal, just being angry and constantly frowning up or whatever, we it does something to our immune system as well, right? So if I'm always walking around in a chronic state of anger, my immune system is going to be compromised more than if I was um more level-headed, right? Also, things like hypertension, heart disease, different things. Anger, our constant state of anger, it contributes to these things. So it's important that we take these things into consideration when we are dealing with our anger. So yeah, so these are just some of the uh, things or benefits I would say for learning to manage our anger in a in a more appropriate way. And that's what it's about. It's about managing the anger. The book used the word control. I prefer to use the word manage, right? Because whenever I think of control, I think of having like total control over something. And I don't think that's exactly what we do with our anger, because we don't control. Like if I control, I would think I control whether I get angry or not. And I don't do that. But I can control what I do with that anger. And that's what we want. We want to be able to control what we do with our anger when we get angry. And if we learn to do that, then we can prevent ourselves from putting ourselves in prison and other bad situations, breaking up our relationships, breaking up our families and stuff like that. Um, you know, uh, and it's huge, right? And I know for myself, and I just hate to think all of the damage that I've caused people with the way that I've dealt with my anger in the past, because at the time I didn't really think about it, didn't really care, nor did I really pay that close attention to how, even their actions affected me, because I was just like, what, F it, whatever, it's whatever. But now I think about, those situations and how there are people, that I can't function the same with due to due to the way that they've dealt with me. And again, I don't have a problem with them to the point that I want anything bad. I want nothing but good. Matter of fact, I want good for everybody, right? Um, I would rather see somebody doing good than doing bad, even if I don't speak to them, even if we're at odds with each other. Um, I got better things to do with my time than to wish negativity or evil on anyone. But there are people I just can't um have that closeness that we had, or that we would have, just due to those situations. So it's important that we think about that. And that make me think about the saying we used to say when we were a kid, right? So to try to get you not to fight because somebody said something to you, they would always tell the kid, words, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words would never hurt me. But that's absolutely not true. Words hurt more. Words hurt more than fists, right? Words hurt more than fists. Now, physically, yeah, okay, the fist hurt. You're gonna get the bruises and all of that. But the thing is that words create these internal bruises that don't get healed, right? That you carry with you throughout your life, right? And in future, chapters, we're actually I'm gonna get into some of that and how that affects us. Anyway, um, hopefully you've been able to stick through with the video. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video. I definitely need the subscribers, need the help. And this is something that I'll be doing on the regular. In the future, I plan to have videos that are a little shorter, maybe 10 minutes or less, or maybe a little bit over, maybe 15 minutes. But this chapter, I didn't see any way to really break it down without kind of going through the whole chapter. Let me know, also throw some comments in if you have some ideas of stuff that you would like to hear me talk about. Let me know. Also, I'm gonna try to find some people to interview, maybe even some people that I actually done time in prison with. But that's all for now. Peace.